Mem Zayin. We're holding on the bottom of Kof Mem Vav and Beis. All the learning should be an incredible schos rafua shlima for Tinok ben Miriam Ahuva. We are 2 lines from the bottom on Kof Mem Vav and Beis as we continue by quoting a brisa. Ma Natana lahad the Tana Rabban, who is the Tan of the following brisa. Harei sheyachayla umutal b'mita. If someone who is sick and confined to bed, va'amru lai, and he says, and those who are attending to him say to him, nechasayech lemi, whom do you want to give your properties to? Va'amar lehen. And he responds as we move over to Kuf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph, doime sheyesh li ben. He responds that I was under the impression, an interesting line to say about one's children, but he says, I was under the impression that I had a son, achshav she'en li ben, but now that I realize I don't have a son, and the Rashbam says, not that he doesn't have a son, but that his son was nifter, nechasai leplayni, I want to give him the nechasai to playni. Case number 1. Case number 2, haya chayla umuta b'mita. It appears my wife is pregnant. That I realize nechasai, since he says that he realized that his wife is not pregnant, so nechasai, who does he want his properties to go to? He explains to nechasai. I'm sorry, we're having issues today. I don't know why our Gemara just shrunk on us. Let's try again. Achshav, now that he says she'nishti muberes nechasai leploini, he wants the properties to go to Pliny. V'noida sheyesh loy. Now, again, so case number 1 is he realized he does not have a son. Case number 2, he realizes his wife is not pregnant. V'noida sheyesh loy ben. Now, let's say in reality he did have a son. Or reality was shaisa ishtay muberes. Then the halacha is ein matanasai matana. In such a case, their matana is not a matana. So says the Gemara, shall we suggest Lema Rav Shimon ben Menasya he v'loy Rabbanan, that this is the opinion of Rav Shimon ben Menasya, why? Who says that we go by Basar Umdana, which was the sugi of the previous daf. So says the Gemara, l'chayra, this price is the same. Answers the Gemara, filu tema Rabban. No. Really, it is the Rabban. Doime shani. When he says doime, I thought this. He's clearly explaining that it's only because of that. This isn't an omdina, this is klar. Says the Gemara, this is so passionate. It's karla, my karla. What in the world was the havamina? Explains the Gemara, maybe he's just recalling the pain. He's recalling the anguish that he had a son, which is no longer kamash lan, that we don't say that's svara. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rab Zira, Amar Rav, continuing the topic of gifts of a shchimara. Says Rav Zira in the name of Ram, Minayin Lamana Shchimara, Shehi Mina Torah. This is a makar for the din of the Mishnah. How do we know that a manash chimra is a din da'araisa shenemar? Says in the pasuk, va'avartem es nachalasai lebitoi. The Torah says you should transfer the nachla to his daughter. Yishlecha avara acheres shikazu. From here we learn out that from the fact that there's the extra word of ve'avartem, that there's another havara similarly. Ve'zazu, and what is that? The manas shchimra, that is the one giving away from his deathbed. Makar number 1, Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Ravua. Rav Nachman Rabba Ravua says Me'acha Nesatim es Nachlasei le'achav. It says in the pasuk you should give the estate to his brothers. Yishcha nesina chareshika zu. There's another nesina similar. Veza zu zumana shchimera. Makar number 2. And now the obvious kasha. Why does A not hold of B and B not hold of A? Rav Nachman Ma'itayim Alo Amar Meva Avartim. Why does it Rav Nachman hold from Avartam? We buy the Rabbi, cause of Rabbi. The Tanya we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Oimer teaches Rabbi B'Kulinemram Nisina V'Kanem Ravara. All other times the Torah uses the word Nisina, giving. That it's given to the next Yerish. It's given to the next in line. Whereas if here it says Avara Ein L'cha Shemavir Nachla Misheva L'Sheva Ella Bas. From there, extra word of Avartim says the Gemara, we learn out Rav Nachman learns out that the only way it's transferred from Shevet to Shevet is through the daughter. I saw why, because her son and husband inherit her. So that's Rav Nachman. And now we have the flip side of the coin. What about Rav Zera? Continues the Gemara on the first white line. Rav Zera, my time Amar mi v'nasatem. Why doesn't Rav Zera learn out from v'nasatem? Answers Rav Zera, Orcha dikrahu. That is just the way that the Torah talks, but it's not enough to form a Joshua. So two different Mekairais to the Matnas Shemara. And the Gemara continues with more Mekairais. Rav Menashe bar Yirmiyah on the second white line, Amar Mehacha from the here. Says in the Torah, Bayamim Chala Chizkiyahu Lamos. Chizkiyahu HaMelech is about to die. Vayavo Yelav, and they bring to him Yeshayahu ben Amos Hanavi. Yeshua ben Amitz, the Navi, comes to him. Vayomer Lav and says, Kamar Hashem. So says Hashem, Sav lebidcha, command to your household, Kimei Satam, because you are dying. V'lo Sichyen, you're not going to recover. So Chizkiah is told by the Navi to give over the last will and testament. B'tzava b'alma. So says the Gemara, this seems to say that Chizkiah gave it away with a mere tzava. From therefore we have a makar. The Manash Chimera could be with just a tzava, just merely oral instructions. Another makar of Bar Yecheskel Amar Meikacha. Rami Bar Yecheskel says from here, V'achi Teifel Ra. Achitofel sees that his Eitzah's counsel is not being listened to. He saddled his donkey. He goes to his house, to his city. And he commands to his city. And the pasuk concludes, and he's strangled. And from here we learn now, Nachamol b'tzava be'alma. So two more Mekairos, four Mekairos in total. Now, once we bring down the story of Achitophel, continues the Gemara, Tanu Rabban, Shloisha Devarim, Tziv Achitophel es banav. Al Tubach like as number one, Val Timredu b'malchus Beis David, don't fight with Beis David, number two. And number three, the Yontav Shalater is Barur, Zaroy Chitim. And the Yontav of a terror, if it is clear, Zero Chitim, plant a wheat crop. Marzucha Armor. On the last spot, Belul Itmar. What do you mean that if it's clear? Didn't mean if it's clear, it meant, but if it's cloudy. And Aminar Dai, they explain, Mishmei Rav Yaki, Loi Bar Mamish, Lo Bala Bala Mamish. In the two versions, it didn't mean it's Mamish clear or it's Mamish cloudy. Ella, Afilu Balul, Veruach Safainis, Min Ashavasai, Zehu Bar. It's a middle level between clear and cloudy. Amar Lei. Now, once we're on the topic of Shavuos and it being an auspicious time to plant crop, if it's a clear weather. I learned this on the Mishnah of Yitzchak bar Avdimi. The last day of Sukkot, everyone looks at the Ashan, at the snake coming up from the Mizbeach. Not a klap eitzafain if it's pointing northward. Aniyim semechin balabatim atzavim. Why are the aniyim happy? There'll be a lot of rain. Upeirais markivim. And when there's a lot of rain, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is the produce are going to rot. So why are the aniyim happy? The aniyim are happy because the prices, of course, will drop in such a matziv as they have to get rid of the crop. Therefore, the aniyim will have what to eat. Not klapi daroim. If it's wind blowing southward, aniyim atim balabatim zemechem. Neshe gesh v'yishanamu atin apeiros mishtamrim. Not klapi mizrach. If it's going eastward, I call semech and klapi marva kol atzavim. So the four directions as the wind could be blowing. Ask the Gemara, we just said that Ma'ariv is a good sign and Mizrach is the opposite. Klabe Mizrach HaKol Smech and Klabe Ma'ariv HaKol Atzavim. For many, Mizrach HaZolam Yafam Ma'ariv HaZolam Kasha, we see the exact opposite. Ruach Svain is Yavel Chitim B'Shas Shevi Yishlish. Kasha L'Zeitim B'Shas. And it's bad for the olives, the Shashe Yanitu. Ruach Droim is Kasha L'Chitim B'Shas Shevi Yishlish. Yavel L'Zeitim B'Shas Yinatzu. And it's bad for the zaitim that are blossoming. So what do we see? We see a stira whether a ruach maravis, ruach mizrachis is not good or not. Ve'amar Rav Yosef v'Tamer Marzuch v'Tamer Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, 4 lines from the end of the Amid. V'simanech shochan b'tzafim minarba daroi. The way you remember this, and of course, this is a nice plug for Zechru. So we see the Gemara itself is using ways of memory that we know that the Shulchan's in the north and the Menorah is in the south. And therefore, Haimar Bedidei, Vahaimar Bedidei, that each one increases on its own. The Shulchan, which holds Lechem HaBanim, of course, the Menorah has the olives. So what do we see? We see the Shulchan in the north reminds us the northern winds are good for the wheat, and the Menorahs in the south remind the southern winds are good for the olives. Says the Gemara, like Kasha, so we had a stira between Mizrach and Ma'ariv, Hala and Halu. It depends on your perspective. Eretz Yisrael versus Bavel. Tanya, we continue. Abba Shalom, Yantiv Shalat Sares. Yantiv of Shavu is Barer, if it's clear. So many of the Cholashana Kulam, Rav Zid Hayom Mekama Derishata. Says Rav Zvi, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, Yichamim, if it's hot, Kulashata. The whole year is going to be Chamima. Yikar, if it's called Kulashata Karira. Says the Gemara, Lamainaf Kamina, very nice, your weather reports. But what does it make a difference to us? Explains the Gemara. Oh, does it make a difference? Remember, it's Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, what says the Gemara as we turn over to Kufim Zayin Uveis Litvilasai Shel Kayin Gadol. As the Rashbam points out, Damzin Kippur Sheitzanazu Geshuma Shchuna. He could see on Rosh Hashanah how the winds are blowing, and therefore know accordingly how to daven on Yom Kippur. On the top line of Kufim Zayin Uveis, the Gemara goes back to the Matnas Shchimera. It's a din derabanan. It's many mekayrais, but says Rava, no, it's a din derabanan. Shemativta yitai to Allah for doing it so that his das doesn't deteriorate. We want his mental acumen to be high, and therefore we allow him to give away so that he maintains calm. Says the Gemara, Miriam Rav Nachman, Hachi, does Rav Nachman really hold this? Amar Rav Nachman, Aval Gavda Amar Shmuel. But Nachman says that even though Shmuel says, and even Vafilu Yarish Machal, still, that you cannot back out. So if the whole thing is a din daraisa, so then I understand why you can't back out. But here's the punchline. If the whole entity of Manash Chimra has a din derabanan, why can you not back out? Answers the Gemara, Inai shal Taira, Vaseuach kishal Taira. You're right, it's not daraisa, but Chazal gave it the power of a din daraisa, even though it's only din derabanan. We'll stop over here as the next summit is a short one. We'll pick it up from Rava, B'siyata, Vishmaya.